You're listening to.
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 Conversations with Amber the Fangirl.
You're amazing.
Go Amber.
You're the best.
Hi guys, Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. The first In Conversation with ATF in a while because I've been under the weather and I've just not really been feeling myself. So, I've really just been taking a break and, well, I'm back. I'm back and I'm better than ever. And my guest is quite a big guest. I have kind of, did a sneak peek on Twitter. I was like, big guest, not a voice actor, but he is probably one of the biggest figures working with Warner Brothers at the moment. My guest was the production attorney for films like Raging Bull, The Black Stallion, Rocky II, and Apocalypse Now. He's also produced series such as Swamp Thing, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, Dinosaurs, Fish Police, and more. But he's best known for being I can never say that word, executive producer of the following films: The Batman, Batman the Doom That Came to Gotham, Batman the 1989 film, Batman Returns, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Joker the 2019 film, oh man, I can't even, Batman and Robin, Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, Batman Mystery of the Batwoman, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Batman Assault on Arkham, Batman the Killing Joke, the Lego Batman movie, and many, many more. I am very privileged to be talking to Michael Uslan. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Amber. Thanks for having me on the show. I've been looking forward to this.
Hey, I'm glad to hear that because, of course, you've worked on tons of Batman-related content. You've produced, heck, you've literally just done The Batman, which has just come out. And I believe you're working on The Batman 2 at the moment.
Right now, Joker 2 is still filming.
Oh, yeah.
Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix. Later this year is going to be The Batman Part 2, and Warner Brothers already announced coming up sometime thereafter will be Batman Brave and Bold. So a lot of interesting Batman works that are in progress. Kind of reminds me of an old Ford assembly line at this point, but it's all very exciting. And the key for me is filmmakers who are brilliant, who have a vision for a character that they love, that they understand, and that's exciting to see.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm also privileged you're speaking to me right now because you're such a busy man. You're working on all these new films, especially Joker 2 at the moment, because I keep seeing people post online about Lady Gaga filming in Los Angeles. And I was meant to be in Los Angeles this month about 2 weeks ago. And that weekend, when I was meant to be there, they were filming. Joaquin and Lady Gaga were filming in Los Angeles. I'm like, did I seriously miss them? I'm like, oh man, I was so gutted. But
well, they're currently in New Jersey, so if you if you wind up on the East Coast, you can start to prowl around.
I've always wanted to visit New York, to be fair. It would be really cool. I've never left my home country of England. I'd love to visit America and maybe Canada. Yeah, that's another one on my list, but especially California because the Warner Brothers lot's there and just everything's there, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, it's really great. I love to travel. My son David, who is a producing partner of mine, David and I travel the world together. And in fact, it's the hat I'm wearing. This is from Warner World in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. We were there last October, and which was amazing because I think it's the world's largest indoor theme park.
Is it indoors?
Yeah, and the central part of it is Gotham City. So it was very exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to go there now. I'm going to the one in Madrid, Park Warner Madrid. And then there's another one in Australia as well. So there's 3 in total. But yeah, I'm quite excited for it because they have got, I think the one in Madrid mainly focuses on cartoons and stuff like that. But they do have a lot of DC related stuff there. So that's really cool.
I will fly anywhere I can get on a great roller coaster.
Ooh, same as me then. Right, so first of all, I want to start talking about one of my most favourite voice actors in the world, who, of course, you've had the privilege of working with and perhaps meeting, of course, because you've done a lot of the Batman animated films. Kevin Conroy, of course, I couldn't pass up the chance to talk about him. I met him a few months before he passed away. So of course you've obviously met and worked with him a lot. So what was it like? What was
Oh
it
my
like to work
God.
with that
Well, first of all, I
magician?
have to tell you, just a couple of weeks ago, I went to Kevin's memorial here in Los Angeles,
Oh yes.
and it was an emotional, stirring, uplifting few hours with a lot of people who worked with him, who loved him, who knew him. Every year I go back to my alma mater, Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. And for 3 weeks, I teach two very intensive courses in the media school on the business of producing motion pictures, and another course called Live from Hollywood, Experiential Learning from the Trenches. And every single time, Kevin would spend 1 hour Zoom with my class and talk to them about his experiences, his philosophy, and then do Q&A with them, which was incredible. Um, about every other year, Mark Hamill does one.
Wow. Oh my
Andrea
gosh.
Romano, who was voice
Love
cast,
Andrea.
voice direction, Andrea is there every year. Paul Dini did the class this year on writing for animation. So we've got an amazing group that come out in support of it. But Kevin was there. Kevin lectured my class 3 weeks before he passed away.
I was gonna say, because you did mention that on social media, and the fact that he was able to do that shortly before he passed, even though like by this point he was, you know, not like he was sick, but he still did that for you, for your
He
class.
he did that because that was Kevin. And we can talk about how talented he was, how trained classically he was, how trained and experienced in theater he was, in virtually every branch of the entertainment industry. But what doesn't get taught is the fact that he was one of the most sincere humanitarian people that you would ever want to meet. The kind of person that you don't normally hear about too much in the movie and television industry. And I knew something was up. First of all, I could tell by looking at him that he was really ill. And this time, as opposed to past years, there was an intensity to his speech. There was a deepness. There was a certain degree of thoughtfulness with the facades removed, where he had points to make to my class. And he told stories, and he mentioned things about people who he trained with, went to school with, some of which, like Robin Williams, for example, he just raved and raved and raved about. Others, quite the contrary. And he talked specifically, not just to my students, but this is a message for fans. This is a message for everyone. The importance of of discovering your passion in life, getting up off the couch, learning what you like, learning what you don't like, finding a passion, focusing on your passion, and staying up off that couch to be proactive if you're ever going to make your dreams come true. And
Yeah.
he was brutally honest that it's not something that's going to happen fast. It's not something that necessarily is going to be easy, but it requires commitment and it requires perseverance. And you can't let the bad guys win. You can't let your frustration overwhelm you and knock you out of the box. And you have to be all in, all in. And it was an incredible hour. It was just an incredible hour. I told a story on social media, which originally I said to Kevin I would not tell. But after his passing, I thought it was appropriate to tell it. There was a story in all the media here in the United States, I guess it was about a year ago, about a little boy, I think he was about 3, who was undergoing horrific treatment for cancer. Very, very painful treatments for cancer, relentless. And to try to help him get through it, his mom and dad dressed up as superheroes and dressed him up as a superhero so that every time they went for the chemo or the radiation or whatever it was, they would do it as a superhero family, knowing they had a big superhero challenge. And primarily they went as the Batman family.
Oh,
So when I told Kevin about this, Kevin said, "Get me on the phone with this kid and his parents." He said, "Let's just keep it between us." I said, "Fine." I've tracked down the doctor. I tracked down the hospital. They put us in touch with the parents. And then for about a half an hour, Batman spoke to this little boy and let him know that he was just as much a superhero as Batman was. And I mean, it was incredible. And the kid just going, "Batman, really? Batman? Batman, hi Batman, really Batman?" I mean, it was amazing. That's Kevin. That's Kevin. And never in it for the glory, never in it for the fame. He was just an absolutely amazing human being.
Michael, that story has just genuinely brought me to tears. I rarely cry on these podcasts, but just hearing that story, that got somewhere in my heart, and just that's beautiful. What a beautiful story.
He was a
Oh,
beautiful
man.
man.
He definitely was. Wow. I nearly had him on my podcast. We were in talks. Me and his agent. This was before he came to England, and they were like, okay, his schedule's a bit busy, but you could check back in a few months. So I checked back around June last year, and he said, oh yeah, he's going through some personal stuff right now, so it might be a few more months. And then I contacted his agent around October time-ish, and he was like, okay, but maybe in the new year. So I kind of nearly got him, but like I didn't. And whilst I'm sad I didn't get him, I am glad that I did get to meet him, even if it was just only for about a minute. So that was really lovely.
It's
Yeah.
a sweet memory for you. You're very lucky.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I really do appreciate that. Um, so this memorial that you went to, I have been told a little bit about it because people have put on social media about it. I know Andrea organised it. Diedrich Bader was there. Will Friedle was there. Roger Craig Smith was there. Wow. So like it was just the perfect memorial. I'm guessing.
It really was a wonderful memorial. Also, you got to credit Gary Miriano. Gary is the guy for DC Warner Brothers who puts on all of the TV and movie related events at San Diego Comic-Con, New York
I see.
Comic-Con.
Oh,
He's an amazing guy. He's a wonderful man also. It's just such a great bunch of people. And that's the amazing thing. I'm at a stage of my career where what's more important to me than even what I am working on is who I am working on a project with.
yeah.
And I have, over the 47 years of my career, worked with every crazy person in Hollywood you can imagine. I've worked with the screamers, with the egomaniacs, and life is just too short. And I tell everybody in this phase of my career, if I can't work with good people in a situation where we make it feel more like we're a family working together than a corporation, then I'd rather not work. That's
Yeah.
how important it is who you work with and the temperament of the people that you work with. There are some wonderful, wonderful people in this industry, but there are also a bunch who are not so wonderful. And now at this stage, we're just carefully pruning who we wind up getting involved with in our projects.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of projects, if you can't say much, that's completely fine. This is just me asking out of the blue.
I
What
probably
can
can't say much, but go ahead.
Moon, what can we expect in the upcoming films you're doing? So Joker 2, Batman 2, The Brave and the Bold, if you can even say anything. I don't know.
Let me talk generally.
Okay.
And this is my personal feelings about the status of comic book movies and superhero movies and
Yeah, go
television,
ahead.
animation, gaming. There's two things we all have to be careful of. Number one is it never helps to simply flood the marketplace. That's always the best way to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. So it's not necessarily just about mass producing as many of these things as you can throw out against a wall to see what will stick. That doesn't serve anyone's purpose. Number two, and most importantly, I believe we can't all afford to do what I call cookie cutter movies, which is to give the fans more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. I don't think the industry, I don't think the audiences will tolerate that for too long a period of time. I think if we're going to do this the right way and continue to do it the right way, we have to push the envelope. We have to be bold. We have to be daring. And that's why I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. That's why I loved Deadpool. And when you look back over the Batman franchise, in terms of legacy, there have now been a number of times where we have absolutely pushed the envelope. In the case of Christopher Nolan, a genius, actually elevate the comic book movie so that when you walked out of one of his Batman movies, you didn't have to say anymore, gee, that was a great comic book movie. You could say that was a great film. When you have Tim Burton, who comes aboard to do the world's first dark and serious comic book superhero feature film, and comes up with what I always refer to, Amber, as the big idea. How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it in a way that wouldn't get unintentional laughs from the audience? How are we going to break Batman out of his pow zap wham funny days? How are we going to make audiences buy it, that there could be a guy dressed as a bat fighting a guy who looks like the Joker, again, without getting laughs from an audience? And Tim had the big idea. He said to me one day, Michael, if we're going to do this and revolutionize Hollywood and the world's perception of comic book superheroes and supervillains, then this movie cannot be about Batman. And at that moment, I think I dropped dead in the pavement. I go, oh my God, what's he saying? He said, no, this movie, which would be our 1989 Batman movie, he said, this movie must be about Bruce Wayne. And Amber, that has made all the difference. There is a corollary to it that he created, and that was from the opening frames of the picture. Gotham City had to be the third most important character in the film. Audiences, through world building, had to believe in Gotham City first before they could suspend their disbelief and believe in Batman and Joker. And he was absolutely right. What was the impact of that genius? Well, besides changing Hollywood forever, it opened up the door to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ask any of my friends at Marvel, they'll tell you the same thing. And I want you to think about it for a second. I'm sure you and everybody who's tuning in have seen Iron Man movies. In fact, they should be entitled Tony Stark. Spider-Man movies should really be called Peter Parker. That comes from the big idea of Tim Burton. Christopher Nolan in the Dark Knight trilogy. Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Andrea Romano, Eric Radomski, Alan Burnett, Kevin, Mark, I mean, the list goes on and on. Batman Mask of the Phantasm, possibly the greatest Batman story ever told in media. And what that did, yeah, excellent. And we didn't even rehearse that, by the way.
Oh, yeah, no. Honestly, beautiful film. Just like, and you think of all these, when you're watching films nowadays, like animated films, like you see all these celebrity names build first, but on this one, it's literally Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, Dana Delaney. It's just like you got Kevin Conroy's build first, and you're just thinking, wow. Oh my gosh. Excuse me. Do carry on.
No, you're allowed to geek out at any moment in the conversation. That's absolutely fine. So what that did to revolutionize the way comic book characters, superheroes are dealt with in animation, the Lego movie,
Yeah.
Chris Miller and Phil Lord. Now, were they geniuses? I knew they were brilliant, but after they did the Lego movie, they go on to do Into the Spideyverse. Yes, they are geniuses, and they elevated the whole thing. Then look at a genius named Todd Phillips and what he did with Joker, pushing brand new ground, boldly going where no filmmaker had gone before. It's my contention that cinema at its best is a mirror that the camera holds up to society and forces us to look at ourselves,
Yes.
warts and all. And in the case of the Joker, it showed us what has become our societal lack of civility toward each other,
Yeah.
our polarization, the fact that these days people are talking at each other instead of with each other. It makes us look embarrassed at how much we all have ignored mental health and mental health issues, and that is tied directly to gun violence. That was an incredible moment. The Batman, Matt Reeves, finally, a movie devoted to the brain of Batman. Bruce Wayne is the world's greatest detective, not on the gimmicks, not on blowing stuff up. I've waited 31 years to get a movie from the studio focused on Batman as detective. And that was just incredible. And now I can't really say very much, but I can guarantee you that Joker 2 with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga is going to push the envelope. It's going to blow the envelope apart in terms of what a comic book movie can be that nobody ever envisioned. It's exciting, but that's where I think we have to go. We have to keep finding the filmmakers with a vision and a passion and then supporting them. People say, how do you describe your job? Well, these days I describe it as number one cheerleader. Support them any way possible. And that's what I do.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I'm excited now for Joker 2. Like, I heard it's a musical and I was like, okay. And then, like, Lady Gaga was on board. I was like, okay. And then I've seen filming, and now I've seen what Lady Gaga looks like as Harley Quinn. And I'm like, okay, I'm pumped for this. I am going to get the first ticket in the pictures to see it. Oh my goodness. I'm genuinely excited.
Well, it's one of those situations. I can tell you all about it, but then I'd have to kill you, so we can't do it.
Yeah. So I suppose that's the easiest way to do it. So how did you get started working in the Batman franchise? Because of course you did the Tim Burton Batman. You come all the way to the present day, and you've just done the Batman. And like, how did you get involved with the franchise initially?
Is your seatbelt fastened?
Yeah.
Get ready for a ride.
Oh boy.
All right, I'm going to attempt to do the shorter version of this if I can.
Okay.
So I grew up a comic book geek and collector. I was at the first Comic-Con ever held on the planet Earth.
Wow.
200 of us showed up at a Fleabag hotel in downtown New York, 197 boys and 3 girls. And we were astonished that 3 girls had shown up, because back then, comic book collecting and reading was not considered cool whatsoever. And except for Archie and some romance comics, girls had no interest in comic books. So by the time I graduated high school, when I was 18 years old, I had over 30,000 comic books dating back to the 1930s. When I got to college at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, they had an experimental curriculum department they started in the College of Arts and Sciences, with the idea being, if you had a concept for a college course that had never been taught before and could get the backing of a department on campus, you then would have the right to pitch it to a dean and panel of professors. And if they approved it, even though I was just an undergrad, I could teach it for 3 hours of credit. So I conceived of the world's first ever college accredited course on comic books, because comic books are a legitimate art form. And my contention was the comic book superheroes are our modern day mythology. And I went to the folklore department and I said to them very simply, The Greeks called him Hermes. The Romans called him Mercury. I call him the Flash. The Greeks called him Poseidon. The Romans called him Neptune. I call him Aquaman. And my folklore professor said, I will back you. You're absolutely right. It's all the same thing. And it doesn't matter if we call them King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table or the Avengers. I will back you. So I wound up convincing the dean, and that's a whole other story. And Stanley always used to tell me, Michael, make sure you always get in the plug wherever you can. So it's actually in my memoir. It's a book called The Boy Who Loved Batman. There's also, I did the Audible book version of it, which I narrated, which you can get through Amazon, Amazon UK, etc. But having taught that course, it got tons of publicity. Every time I taught a course, there were television cameras and reporters. I was doing radio and TV talk shows, and I got a call from Stan Lee. And he said, Michael, I'm reading about you in newspapers, seeing you on TV. What you're doing is great for the whole comic book industry. How can I help you? That was the day Stan transformed from my idol to my mentor, ultimately to my friend, then to my creative partner on projects. And lastly, my son David and I were two of the producers of his memorial at Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. 2 hours later, I got a call from the vice president of DC Comics. They were listening to me on the radio. They said, you're a very innovative young man. We'd like to fly you to New York City and discuss ways we can work together. Geek dream come true. I get a job at DC. I'm going to work there summers, and they put me on retainer when I was in school. So I go from college to law school. I'm getting ready to graduate from law school. And I go to work for United Artists back when it was one of the major Hollywood studios and the only one based in New York. I spent 4 years as a motion picture production attorney there, learning how you finance movies, how you produce movies, networking like mad. You mentioned some of the movies I was involved with. Mm-hmm. I did not want to be trapped into becoming a lawyer for the rest of my life. I wanted to get back to my passion of comic books. And the fact that I still remembered a cold night in January 1966, when the Batman TV show made its premiere. I was so excited for months, I couldn't wait for it. And then it happened, and I was horrified because it hit me that this was a comedy, that Batman was being played as a joke, and the whole world was laughing at Batman, and that just killed me. Because that, in 1966, 67, 68, that was the one and only interpretation the entire world had of Batman. Mm-hmm. I vowed that night in my downstairs den at my house, just like Bruce Wayne once made a vow, except Bruce made his vow over the slaughtered bodies of his parents. Mine were safe upstairs in the kitchen. But I made this vow that somehow, someday, I would show the world the true Batman, the Dark Knight, who battles these deeply disturbed villains in the shadows. So finally, I go back to Saul Harrison, who was the man who mentored me into DC Comics. He's now the president. He was now the president of DC. I said, Saul, I have credentials now. I've worked at United Artists for almost 4 years. I learned how you produce and finance movies. I want to buy the rights to Batman from DC Comics, and I want to go out and make dark and serious Batman movies and show the world who he really is. Saul Harrison was a lovely man who was very fatherly toward me. Did you ever see the poster for Home Alone? Uh-huh. Macaulay Culkin. He looked just like the poster when I told him this. He went, Michael, for God's sake, don't do this. I don't want to see you lose all your money. He said, son, don't you understand that when Batman went off the air in television, the brand became, and this is a quote, Amber, the brand became as dead as a dodo. Nobody's interested in Batman anymore, Michael. I said, yeah, but nobody's ever seen a movie based on comic book superheroes that's so dark and serious. This is going to be like a new form of entertainment. Yeah. He said, is there any way I can talk you out of this? Now I look like the laughing the Joker. I said, no. He said, all right, come on in. 6-month negotiation. gave me time to raise money privately. On October 3rd, 1979, I bought the rights to Batman. I put it in my back pocket and I flew out to Hollywood where I virtually knew nobody.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, this is going to be easy. How can everybody not see the potential for sequels and animation and toys and games? I was turned down by every single studio in Hollywood. They told me point blank, you're crazy, kid. This is the worst idea we've ever heard. You can't do serious comic book movies. You can't do dark superheroes. You can't make a movie out of an old TV series. Nobody's ever done that. So from the time I bought the rights to Batman till we were finally able to get our first Batman movie made in 1989, took 10 years. 10 years of rejection. 10 years of everyone telling you suck, that your idea stinks. And it tests your mettle as a human being. You've got to look deep inside yourself as you struggle to hold on by your fingertips for 10 years, knowing you still have to somehow put food on the table for your family and a roof over their head. And I'm thinking, okay, is the whole world right and I'm just being stubborn? Or do I really truly believe in this and in myself? And I kept coming up with the latter answer. It wasn't until Tim Burton waltzed into all of our lives in 1986 that everything began to then come together due to Tim Burton and his big idea. Added to it, my dear friend Anton Furst, who was the production designer and another genius on Batman 1989, who designed Gotham City, the Batmobile, the whole look of the picture. And when you're talking to geniuses, I throw Danny Elfman into the mix as well. Think about it. I contend that every single genre movie since then, including the ones opening up this coming weekend, you can still see the influence of Tim Burton's vision. You can still see the influence of Anton Furst's design work. You can still hear the notes, the influence musically of Danny Elfman. So that's how it happened. That's how I became the originator and the executive producer of the Batman movie franchise. Today, if I told the story without setting it in the context of the times, all your listeners and viewers would go, well, that's impossible. It's inconceivable. A kid in his 20s walks in and buys the rights to Batman from DC Comics. It can't be, but it was. And the very unglamorous answer as to how that could have happened is simple. I was the only person on the planet Earth who showed up.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Mic drop. So after Batman 1989, of course, came a new adventure for the Dark Knight in form of another TV series, but this time it was animated. How did you get involved in that? Were you the one who first pitched the idea, or was it the work of Paul Dini and Bruce Timm?
It all is on the shoulders of Bruce Timm. And the good folks in the world of animation over there do not get the spotlight and the credit they deserve. And they deserve so much of it. I mentioned a lot of names earlier that were involved. And I think they have done some of the greatest Batman stories ever told in the media. Look at what they were able to accomplish on that two-parter, Mr. Freeze, where they took a character who in the movies at the time, he said, rolling his eyes, was laughable. And in animation, the empathy you felt for him and the shades, the tragedy, the romance, everything that was incorporated, it was amazing. There's so many great episodes there and have been in terms of the animated movies that have been made since then. You look at things like Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, incredible, Under the Red Hood. There has been a succession of absolutely wonderful animated features, and that all is the work of that group at Warner Animation under Sam Register. My dear friend Mike Carlin works over there. wonderful people, creative people, good people, and they turn out quality stuff.
Did you oversee any of the other animated series involving Batman? So like Batman Beyond. I know you did the film, but Batman Beyond, Justice League. Did you
That
oversee?
is, I refuse to let one iota of credit slip away from Bruce Timm and that organization. They deserve all the credit. They did that.
Ah, right. So you didn't work on those shows then?
You know what I was? I was the support. I was the cheerleader. But,
Oh, right. Okay. I
but they
see where you're coming
were
from.
Warner Brothers Animation doing what Warner Brothers Animation
Oh,
does.
right. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I was a bit confused then, so I was just trying to clarify real quick.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's the best way I can describe it.
yeah.
That is a unit of Warner Brothers, and it's an incredible unit. If you go back to the early days with Chuck Jones and everybody at the Warner Brothers
Yeah.
Animation unit on Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, these guys are worthy successors to those guys.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with you with that for sure. So the last topic we're really going to talk about is The Dark Knight. Of course, like I've got to bring up like sort of like the Dark Knight trilogy. Of course, you've worked with, I believe you met the cast of that film, right?
The cast was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the strengths of, and there are so many, of Christopher Nolan is he never goes with the obvious. He always comes up with the most interesting, out of the box concepts.
Yeah,
Gary Oldman, I always
yeah,
knew him as the actor who was a chameleon. The guy could do anything and blend into any movie, no matter how out there it was. And then to choose him to be the most human, the most grounded of the characters in the movie was pretty amazing. Um, one of Chris Nolan's challenges, if he was going to convince the world that Bruce Wayne could be a real person today,
mm-hmm.
a young man suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome on a lost horizon type of journey of self-discovery, to cast Christian Bale and create a performance where people around the world who had never read a comic book before could believe in this guy. Once again, it's all about Bruce Wayne, right?
Yeah,
The fact that in trying to create a Batman that people would believe could be real in this post 9/11 order versus chaos gray world we all live in, to be able to convince them Joker could be real as a modern day terrorist, somebody who places no value on on human life whatsoever. Again, casting Heath Ledger in what I felt was the performance of a lifetime, then convincing everyone that Gotham City could be real by not building 5 square city blocks on the back lot of Pinewood, which is what Tim did, but approaching it by using a real city, in this case, Chicago, because he knew that if he shot in New York, the second anyone saw Times Square, the Statue of Liberty, they would go, "Ah, it's New York." It would break that suspension of disbelief.
yeah.
And Chicago, very few people around the world could even identify that city. So that was brilliant. But I think his biggest challenge was, how did he convince us all that all the gadgets, all the tech could be real? And that goes back to the casting. He hired Morgan Freeman to tell everyone it was real. And
Yeah.
if Morgan Freeman says it's true, by God, it must be true. That was absolutely brilliant. The casting, absolutely brilliant.
Wonderful. Of course, my burning question is, did you get to meet Heath Ledger?
Yes, I met Heath a number of times. I first met Heath when he came over from Australia. He was dating Naomi Watts at the time, and I spent an evening with Heath and Naomi. Heath was my son's age, and he was just doing Four Feathers at that time. And we spent a great evening together. I was mostly telling stories of old Hollywood, and it was a lot of fun. But to give you an idea of Heath Ledger, not only the consummate actor, but the human being. We were on the set one day in Chicago. It was a blistering hot and humid July day. I think there were 1,200 extras working that day. And
Wow.
it was the scene where the Joker attempts to assassinate the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Heath in his Joker makeup, his Joker outfit. And then they put a heavy policeman's coat over him and a hat. He's got a gun underneath. And it's a lot of action, a lot of moving back and forth. Cut, take two, take three, take four. Finally, when there's a break in the action, he comes over to the side. And when they took this coat off of him and the hat and the Joker coat, it looked like somebody had taken an entire garbage can of water and dumped it over his head. He was just sweating through everything. And of course, at that moment in time, I go up to him and say, Heath, my wife Nancy is on the set today. You've never met her. She's never met you. Would you mind if I brought her over just to say hello? And he said, no, that's fine. I brought Nancy over to him, and for the next 20 minutes, he spoke to her as if she was the only person alive on the planet Earth. And
Wow.
he wanted to know about her and what she was doing and her nonprofit work that she was doing. And I mean, that's the kind of person that he was, a tremendous, tremendous loss.
Yeah. I fully agree. What a beautiful story. Wow. Oh my gosh, like just to be on all of these sets, as you said, like in Chicago for Batman 1989, they filmed at freaking Pinewood Studios in England. Because I know like they filmed a lot of stuff there, and they filmed a lot of the Star Wars trilogy stuff there. That I like you wouldn't have thought. I would have thought it would have been like in Hollywood they would have filmed it. But no, it's actually just like 3 hours down south from me in Hertfordshire. I think it's in Hertfordshire. No, was it Buckinghamshire? I think.
They wanted the biggest sound stages available and backlot. Again, 5 square city blocks of Gotham City were built on the backlot, and the Bond movies were done there, Star Wars, as you mentioned. I was there walking through the
Buckinghamshire, yeah.
Gotham City set one day with my partner, Ben Melniker. Ben was my dad's age.
Mm-hmm.
Ben is a legend in the movie business. Ben started at MGM in its Tiffany years. He started there in late 1939 and was there until 1972. All divisions reported to Ben. He was chairman of the film selection committee. Ben put together a few movies such as Ben-Hur, Dr. Zhivago, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Gigi, and many of the musicals. And as we were walking through the 5 blocks of Gotham City, he's looking up, he's shaking his head. He said to me, Michael, I never, ever, ever imagined in my life that I would see sets more extravagant than Ben-Hur. And Michael, this tops Ben-Hur. I mean, that was amazing to get from Ben. Ben was incredible. He passed away just right before his 105th birthday.
Wow.
And he was as sharp as could be, walked unassisted. He was an amazing inspiration and like a second father to me.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. They lived up to 104 though. That's really lovely. I'm glad that he got to see his 100th birthday. Did he hold like a party for his 100th birthday?
He did have a party for his 100th
Did
birthday.
he?
He did.
Wow.
And one of the gifts was he got a brand new golf club made of titanium or whatever they were making it with. So because he was losing his ability to drive the ball far enough, and with this new club, it gave him added length to driving the golf ball. This was when he was 100.
Wow. And like still golfing.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, that
yeah.
is
He had to give up golf after age 101. So he was a little sad about that.
oh bless him. Wow. Honestly, Michael, you have had such wonderful experiences with many people, actors, directors, creators, everything in between. Oh my gosh, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you today for my little show, and hopefully we can do a part 2 in the future. I have to start listing down some topics that we need to talk about, because look, we have just touched the grass here. We've got to dig down even deeper.
Well, thank you for that, Amber. And I'll wrap it up by just letting you know that my memoir, The Boy Who Loved Batman, is now being turned into a Broadway play by the Nederlander organization of New York City. And I am so excited. They said they were looking for a story that would be very entertaining, but that could inspire people post-COVID and let them know that even when you don't have money and even when you don't know the right people, that if you have passion, if you have commitment and perseverance, if you get up off the couch, you can make your dreams come true. And I couldn't be more excited about this.
That is so, so cool. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope it comes to the West End, because I will definitely go and watch it. Oh my gosh, that is so freaking cool. Oh my gosh. Where can we find you on social media if we want to, connect with you or follow you or see what you post and stuff like that?
You can find me tiptoeing through Instagram and Facebook. I try not to focus too much attention outside of that. Those keep me hopping. I try to post close to every day if I'm around. You'll see a lot of fun behind the scenes pictures from the different movies. Some just hopefully entertaining Batman lore, some fun stuff. But yeah, I welcome everybody to join me on those.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. So you at home, thank you so much for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF featuring the lovely Michael Uslan. We will be back in the future for part 2. If you would like to stick around for that, maybe it could be in a few months, could be next year. Who knows? It depends, but it will happen someday. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out Michael on his Instagram and Facebook, and we'll see you around. Take care, everybody. Bye. And cut.